based on feelings. Most of the time, not all the time, maybe you're in the category that we're going to talk about today, but most of the time, it starts with the first step is feelings. And the second step from feelings is we choose to be with that person. And the third step, and I'm not sure if you've been there before, is you hope that you're going to become the person, the husband, the wife that you want to be, and you hope, and you really hope that they're going to feel the same way. That's kind of how it works in our culture. The problem is, it's flipped. That's not the way it should be. Feelings are not a good foundation for that decision. It's never a good foundation for that decision. You're like, well, you got to feel something. Absolutely. But here's what this might look like, right? Here we are in the church. And the church has as big of a problem with relationships as anyone else. So 2013, the church is saying, we need to change culture, change culture, change culture. And really, we're not changing anything because we haven't got a big grasp on this. And part of the problem is this. The problem is that when you find somebody, you find that relationship, and you're excited about that relationship, and it's like, I got a boyfriend. One of the things we do, somebody, let's say, where's Ryan? Ryan comes to me and says, I have a girlfriend. He hasn't said that, so I'm not, okay. Ryan says, I have a girlfriend. One of the questions that I normally ask in response to that is, what's she like? That's a horrible question. In fact, it's not even the most important question you could be asking. The most important question you should be asking has nothing to do with what she is like in that scenario. The most important question is, what are you like, Ryan? What's going on in your life? How's things going with you? Because the most important thing about any relationship you're in is not who they are, but who you're becoming. Let me give you an illustration of this. A pastor friend of mine told me this story. He was kind of speaking about marriage in a service, and he said he was getting ready for it. And he grabbed a few college students, got some thoughts on young adults. He said this one young lady told him a story. And she came and she said, you know what? She said, I'm excited you're talking about this, but I got to tell you this story. Said I was kind of dating around, going from person to person, enjoying the life, trying to find that person, but I was really more interested in just kind of guessing along the way. So I was going to clubs and parties and having lots of friends, and life was good, and no big deal. And all of a sudden, I go through this, and I know the kind of person I'm supposed to be looking for, and I know what the Bible says and all this, but I'm just kind of doing my own thing. And all of a sudden, I find this guy, she says. This guy who was so amazing, who was so awesome, who was so incredible. And he was like the guy. I mean, he had all the things that I should be looking for, and the things that my parents were looking for. And I was so excited. So I rushed home, she said. And I couldn't wait to tell my mom, so I barged in the door, and I'm like, Mom, guess what? She's like, what? She's like, I gotta tell you, I found the guy. And she just kind of looked at me. No, you don't understand. Really. This guy, he goes to church. This guy is a deacon at his church. This guy is a leader. This guy reads the Bible, he told me. This guy is awesome. Like, he has everything. And he's good looking. And the mom, she said, my mom looked at me. And I expected her to smile and hug me. My mom looked at me. And she said, Martin. She's Martin. She said, that's weird. This is not my story, by the way, I promise. She said, "Whoa, what would a guy like that want with you?" And she said, "My mom." That clearly wasn't meant for encouragement, but all of a sudden I realized she was right. And I dropped to the floor and I bawled, knowing that that guy couldn't go home and tell his mom about me. And listen, that seems really harsh. But that's a guy or girl, it's irrelevant. That seems really, really harsh. But one of the things I know is the first question that your friends should be asking is not, well, what's his personality like? Or this or that. But how are you doing? And so you might say, well, a lot of us aren't single in here. Here's the problem with changing culture as Christians. It has nothing to do, what we're talking about has nothing to do with whether you're single or married, because we need to be teaching these things. The problem is we're not. We're not providing leadership when it comes to teaching people biblical principles on this kind of stuff. So consequently, people are making the same mistakes that I made so many years ago. And that others before us made. So this morning I want us to ask this question to ourselves. And the question is, I knew I should write it down. Are you the person you're looking for is looking for? Are you the person you're looking for is looking for? Because it starts with you. It doesn't start with who that person is. It starts with you as a person. You're like, oh, I can't wait to show you this person. I can't wait to get together with the right one. I can't wait to... No. Let's start with the right one. Let's start with, are you the person you're looking for is looking for? Because far too many times we've based these discussions on electricity. And the one thing I know about electricity is it's really difficult to grab onto. Right? Let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 13 this morning. Paul realizes that there's a group of people, a church, that's in a mess. A church that's going through difficult times. So what Paul does is he gets to and says some really hard things. And in 1 Corinthians 13, he gets to this poetic part. Now, I don't think that he thought this was going to be poetry. But it's a beautiful passage. It's a beautiful piece of writing. I actually read it a lot in weddings. Either it's asked of me or I do it anyway. Because it's a beautiful piece of writing. But the thing about it is, sometimes when there's such a poetry, or when there's a good song, sometimes it kind of goes over your head, right? You're just kind of like, oh, I didn't realize it said that. I didn't realize it was talking about that. So we're going to look at this passage of Scripture, and we're going to kind of break it down and realize when we are loving somebody, here's what we're actually doing. Let's start in verse 4, Luke chapter 13. I'm sorry, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. First of all, love is patient. Let's think about that for a second. This morning, anybody have a lack of patience? Yeah, this is church day. I know this is going to happen, right? You have a lack when it comes to people other than yourselves. We have a lack of patience. Here's the thing about patience. If you're not being patient, you're not being loving. That's what Paul says. Simple as that. Love is patient. So, are you someone who can be characterized as patient? that if people looked at your life, if people looked at your life and said, oh, this is what I know about Lee. This is what I know about Jessica. Is those people are patient. Because that's what love is. Love is patient. Here's something else love is. Love is kind. Okay? Now, us guys, we don't necessarily like that word. It's kind of a wimpy word. Let's look at it this way. Love is considerate. Okay? Love is considerate. Now, I know, because I dated for a lot of years, I know that you can be considerate with people who you just met, or are on a date with, or just recently started dating. That's not the question. The question is this: are you considerate to the people in your home, or the people who you spend the most time with? And it got really quiet. The question is not, are you considerate to that person who you just started dating? If you're not, you're really dumb, first of all. Right? Anybody can be considerate to someone they just met. Anybody can be considerate to somebody they're dating. True love is this. True love is when you're considerate to the people in your home who you spend a maximum amount of time with, or a lot of time with. There's another one. It does not envy. Okay, good. I'm not really a jealous person. Okay, here's what envy means. We don't say this all the time, but here's what envy means. Envy is, I don't feel good about me, so I don't want you to feel good about you. Envy is, I don't feel good about me. In other words, I'm not feeling that great. I'm not feeling good about myself or me as a person. So here's what I want. I don't want you to feel good about you either. What's that? That's envy. Oh. Because here's what we do. And I'm not trying to be harsh. This is just the truth. Things don't just, it's like that, whoa, boom, you're married, everything's good. I'm going to be someone who's not like this. No, these things naturally occur in a relationship that starts out on feelings. Because if you don't then feel good about you, you don't want anybody else to feel good about themselves. And so, listen, when you're dating, right? If you're on a date, this is what you don't do, right? When you don't want to talk over the other person. They tell a story. Oh, let me tell you a better story. What's that? You don't feel good about yourself. So you can't glory in what they've just said. By the way, you're envious. That's not loving. I don't think you're ready for that relationship. Or at least there's lots to go through. Right? This is some of the things we have to work through. You can't just say, oh, I'm ready. I just feel ready. Let's just do that. No. Are you a person who loves? I mean, really loves. I mean, how about when you're on a date, or here's a great practice thing, right? You tell a story, somebody else tells a story rather, and even if you have a better story, and you probably do, especially if you're a good storyteller, I promise you, I have a better story than that. Whatever story you're going to tell me, let me tell you, right? If you're a good storyteller, this is my story, and it gets a little better. How about just saying, wow, that's awesome, and shut up. Hey, this is great marital advice too. Oh, let me tell you about my day, how awesome it was, as opposed to what you just told me, which was awesome, but this is better. Or the opposite of that. Oh, my day was horrible. Who cares about your good day? Right? Wow, that's awesome. Wow, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that with me. Love does not envy. It does not boast, and it is not proud. Are you a person who loves? In other words, are you a person who can say, you know what? I was wrong. I'm sorry. Because if you can't say I'm sorry, do not get in a relationship. Don't even do it. Don't even pretend to do it. Don't even say, oh, I think I can do this. No, because you can't. Love does not boast. And it is not proud. I mean, how many times, for those of you who are married, how many times has pride got inside of you and you know you're right? And that's the whole point. Man, at the end of that argument or that fight, wasn't that just so good? Wasn't just that so awesome that you were right and they were wrong? Didn't that do amazing things for you? Wow, I'm right. I feel good about me now. Love does not boast. It is not proud. Here's another one. It does not dishonor others. Love does not dishonor others. Once again, let's take this to, not to whether you can honor a person you're dating. How are they doing in other areas of their life? How are they doing with their family members? How are they doing with their parents? How are they doing talking about, are they honoring the other people in their lives? Or are they gossiping and saying, they're horrible, or this or that, or this or that? Love does not dishonor others. This is not, wow, I'm married, boom, everything's going to be good. Right? It's not. I'm telling you, it does not work that way. And I know what you're thinking, well, Marty, that kind of sounds like a boring date, though. It sounds like a boring date, like, that everything's, patient, kind, What about the excitement? And the craziness? The craziness is great until it's not great anymore. And you're miserable. And you wonder why. And you wonder what that foundation was all about. When you start with the foundation of electricity, you're leaving up to chance. But should not be left up to chance. It's not worth it. It's not worth getting a relationship based on feelings because, But it's really not about the other person. We're going to talk about this more next week. So let me ask you this question. Does this list that we talked about in 1 Corinthians that Paul wrote, love is, does this list come naturally? No. Well, wait, I'm kind of a patient person. No. You're patient with people you just met. You're patient on that first date. But excuse my English, you ain't patient. It's hard naturally. Maybe you are, hopefully. It's hard work. You know what comes naturally? Feelings. Feelings come naturally. Feelings come naturally. Feelings like, I feel like this. I feel connected to you. I feel so strong. Nobody has ever had a relationship as strong as us. I just feel it. I feel so close to you. I would put a vial of blood, your blood on my necklace. That actually happened, right? 2 months later. Relationships built on feelings will crumble. Every time it Paul says this, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. We'll talk about these things next week. But It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. And then, Paul, a few verses later in verse 11, he says this. He says, when I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. And when I became a man, you can say it this way, when I became an adult, I put the ways of childhood behind me. Anybody watch Once Upon a Time, or that show? There's the fairy tales, right? Anybody ever heard of a fairy tale, right? Snow White, Cinderella, and it's beautiful. Those stories are beautiful. They're great stories. But what happens? The princess finds the prince, either, this is typically true, either he's a beast or a mouse or a frog or whatever. That's true. Oh, that's the true part. And then they kiss, right? And when they kiss, everything is great, and you walk into the sunset. They walk into the sunset happily what? Ever after. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that awesome? It is that easy. Oh, it's not? Then why are we pretending like it is? Why are we asking, well, what does he look like? What does she look like? Why are those our first questions? Because Paul says here, to the culture, it's a fairy tale. But in real life, and you can say it this way, in real family, because he's talking to the church body, in real life, in real family, in adult life, it's actually hard work. Happily ever after is really, really, really hard work. So we ask ourselves this question. Before we get into a relationship, before that person that we care about gets in a relationship, before they say, oh, I can do this because, I'm ready, and blah, 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 everybody's ready. Everybody who you ever ask is ready, right? The question is this. I'm not trying to be judgmental. Trust me, I've been there. Am I the person I'm looking for is looking for? Am I the person? And here's what's going to happen. When you become that person, when you work on you, because that is so important, when you say, am I a loving person? Am I a person who can love? I mean, really love, not just happy fairy tale love. When I become that person, I will be ready. I'll be ready for the onslaught that is hard work. There's nothing like marriage, right? It's awesome, it's wonderful, but it is not a fairy tale. It is not super easy. There are parts of it that are awesome, that are the fairy tale-ish. But it's not like, oh, we're just going to walk into the sunset together. I tell this story often, and praise God that Carrie's working in the kids' church. It's always my prayer when I'm thinking these through. And some of you have heard this, but when I asked Carrie to be my girlfriend, I mean, we had electricity, right? We had feelings, and it's just beautiful. And so because we had all this, I said, you know what, Carrie, would you be my girlfriend? And she said, no. And I was crushed. My electricity was turned off. Like, what? What's going on? And so thankfully, I said it again. And she said, no. Thankfully, there's a third time. Because when I asked her the third time, she said, no. And then she added to that, you and I will never, ever date. Right? I know. You should feel bad for me in those there. But here's the thing. Fourth time she said yes. That's a good part. But here's what I know about Carrie. is that she was not going to go into this relationship, into a relationship that is supposed to last forever. She was not going to go into that relationship based on the fact that she liked me a lot, or she had feelings for me, or blah, 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 blah. It wasn't going to be based on that. It was going to be based on, sure, if she likes me, that's a plus. That's an open gate, that's fine. But she's not going to go into that relationship based on any of that. It was going to be, am I the right person I need to be? And then, and this is what we'll talk about more next week, then I can make the decision about him. See, the problem is, if you're not working on you, you can't make a right decision about the other person. Your problem is, your love, or whatever that is, really is blind. Oh yeah, this is great, it's beautiful, I'm a princess, I'm a prince, yeah, this is great. Until all of a sudden, it falls. So it starts with, am I the person I'm looking for is looking for?